Hi, I'm Rachel Abbasi. Welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. As always, thanks for spending time with me. Hello and happy Tuesday. I would like to talk today with you about patience. And so I had gone to church on Sunday. And the message was very related to my AA meeting that I went to last night. And I thought, maybe somebody's trying to tell me something. So I thought I would cover it today. So a little bit about patience, a little bit about trusting the process that you can't see. I heard a lot of great stuff both in church and in my meeting about patience really being tightly related to faith and trust, which makes sense, right? So, um, patience requires trust. What I heard in my church service was about it really resonated with me. Actually, it's kind of interesting what happened right after the sermon that I was like, okay, I hear you, you know. I'll let you know what that was. Now you have something to anticipate. Um, what the pastor was talking about is how not every, let's see, how can I word this? Dead ends might be on purpose. Um, that not everything meaningful in our lives happens quickly and is easy to see the path from beginning to end. Um, I heard something about like the, for example, the grass and the trees, okay? Things that are beautiful but temporary grow quickly, like the grass. And then we cut the grass after a week or two. Things that grow beautiful but are more stable and present for longer periods of time take time. And that is like a tree. And so patience, really the reward of patience is longer, more stable beauty and growth. This is the example that I heard. I think in church is where I heard that. So trusting the process before we understand what is happening. Um, we want to be able to see clearly where our life is leading us, and then we trust. But patience and faith requires us to trust first, and then the understanding comes later. So in my AA meeting, I was sharing about the greatest trust that I think I've had to uh, attempt is to just trust that my stroke and my disability, my vestibular disorder, my cognitive disorder, all the things that I'm dealing with, the chronic pain, um, I can't I couldn't in the beginning for the life of me see how this could end well. You know, I had to leave my job. I I can't do so many things. That's what I was focused on. If you go back a couple years and listen to the podcast, like I kept saying, I need to focus on what I can do, not what I can't do. But it required me, like I had to keep saying that in order to not feel sorry for myself. Um, and I still do to this day. There are things that come up. We moved to this new neighborhood and it's starting to get nice outside. And I'm really hopeful that I'm going to be able to kayak, but I don't know if I can. And kayaking for me, like just putting the kayak in the water and being able to just sit there for a while and listen to a book is acceptable to me. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. So I'm just hopeful for that. Um, so the reason I bring that up is that there's still more to come in my life that I'm going to encounter that maybe I won't be able to do. And I'm going to need, without clarity on why or where my path is headed, I'm I need to trust. And the understanding will come later. So as I've been doing this thing, this recovery thing for several years now, um, I've started to be able to see with gratitude. It's one thing to see it and think maybe, um, this is what I'm getting out of this, that I got to retire early, that I don't have to sit in front of a computer all day, that I get to do my hobbies and stuff. Um, but seeing that with gratitude is a lot different. Yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, yeah, I think it was this morning. I said to my husband, the puppies and I got to spend a lot of time outside. We played with our balls outside and I listened to my book and then they sat in their outdoor little tent beds that I got them. And then, I walked Autumn down to the water and she swam in the lake. And then we came back to the backyard and I brought Boris back out and they each sat in one of the outdoor chairs while I sat in another and I listened to my book and it was very lovely. Um, but when I said that to him, I said, this is what I did. And he said, and I got to work. And I didn't know what to say because I am grateful that for the life that I have right now, despite my pain and despite the things that I can't do, and I don't want to be ungrateful for it, but I also, part of me wishes that none of this happened and I was still working and I was still working on being promoted and um getting to do my job because I loved my job. So my point is that I still feel that sometimes, like even though I can find the gratitude. So it was one thing to see like start to be able to understand how my life is unfolding post-stroke. And then came the gratitude. It's unfolding, and now I have gratitude. But I don't always feel that way. Sometimes I do, sometimes I'm blind to that reward that I'm getting right now. Um, so faith is believing what you can't see yet. And the reward of that faith is eventually being able to see it. So I'm still working on that. And I think I feel it more than I ever did before. The gratitude for how my life is unfolding this way. And a lot of that is because I'm so well taken care of by my husband. And I'm super grateful for that, for all the opportunities that I'm given here in being able to move to a new neighborhood. And that took a lot of patience. It was several years before we were able to actually move. We had been talking about it, but then there were all these doctor's appointments, and every doctor's appointment led to another doctor's appointment, and then there was vestibular therapy and vision therapy, and it's like, when is this going to be over? When can I start living? When can I just start accepting that this is the way that things are going to be for me, and and start learning how to live this way? And it took patience because the shortest path, like, had I just had my stroke and we're like, all right, we got to get out of here, we got to go move somewhere where we can live, that would have skipped over all the doctor's appointments that were honestly required in order for my disability to be approved. I believe I needed to go to all these doctors and get I guess, validation from the specialist and try different medications and therapy and stuff to show that there is no immediate relief for what I've got. There are no quick fixes. There's even therapy was like, I did it for 6 months. That's not a quick fix. 6 months, and I think it was like 6 to 8 months. I'm not sure. And nothing got better for me. Honestly, it was aggravating every week going back and feeling the same pain and like, when can this be over? Um, so but I needed to do that long term in order to be able to accept that my condition and what we're dealing with is long term. It's going to be lasting, and that's how I'll know how to build my life around this, if that makes sense. What I heard in church on Sunday was that God is not in a hurry, but he's never late. And another thing I heard in actually in my AA meeting was um, God will never give you patience, but he will let you practice it. It's like, don't ask God for patience because he won't give it to you, but he will let you practice it or something like that. And that made a lot of sense to me, if I'm articulating it correctly. Um, so in church, the pastor was talking about how what feels like a dead end in our lives can actually be us being positioned for what's next in our lives. So I immediately was thinking about when I was sitting on my front porch and I just left like that day, I had said to my boss and HR and everybody that I can't do it anymore. I'm in too much pain. I can't keep working like this. And I sat on my front porch and I cried, sobbed, and it felt like a dead end. It felt like my life was over. It's quite amazing to think back at that from that moment on how my life has transformed, but only because I am working on what's going on between my ears. So even if that what felt like a dead end is really a repositioning for my life, or redirection or preparation for the next part of my life, um, I have a role in that. I have to practice the patience. I have to accept. I have to be willing. Um, I heard the past couple days that often, and I believe this through my program, that when things don't go my way, usually they are better than I could have planned them. Um, and a lot of that for me comes from working the steps of the program and practicing that pause that I talk about all the time instead of reacting, like using my God box, releasing what I can't control, stop trying to control people, places, and things, remembering the truth about what I can control in my life. And it's anything within my fingertips. I cannot control anything outside of my fingertips. The more that I try to, the more restless, irritable, and discontent I become. So, using things like a God box and being able to, like, I learned for me that I am not able to to manage this whole concept of control. In the beginning, I wasn't able to manage this whole concept of lack of control without taking some kind of action. So if I was restless, irritable, or discontent, I had to do something about it. I couldn't just let things go. Um, I mentioned yesterday in my meeting that even though outwardly patience looks like somebody has this divine gift, patience for me often feels like there's chaos inside of me. I said yesterday, and I don't know if it came across right, but it's when I have patience, when I'm practicing patience, it's not like I have this symphony playing on inside of me. It's usually chaos. Um, I'm waiting, but I'm like doing my best to not force an outcome. Um, and the best way that I learned how to do that was with the guide box. I learned that if something in my life is going the way that I don't want it to, um, I can't control it. I open up my God box and I write on a piece of paper whatever it is that is bothering me. And then I shut my God box, and that is my action of letting go. And there have been days that I write the same thing on the piece of paper and put it in my God box for like 7 days straight. I think 7 days was the longest. I wrote one thing down on there, and it was my boss. It was my boss's name. I wrote his name down there. But that on the outside looks like patience, but on the inside, it felt like real life. It felt like frustration a little bit because what I wanted to do is I wanted to tell off my boss because he was doing things at work that I wanted to be the boss. Like I have this, yeah, the control that I try to practice in my life is really unrealistic. So I've told my boss this before, back when I was working. I was like, I think that I want to be the boss of you. And we would laugh about it, but that's what was happening that week. And so I just wrote his name down in the God box for 7 days straight until finally I could not remember what I was upset with him about. So I was literally trusting without seeing. I was waiting without forcing, and I was moving forward in my life without certainty. So I didn't know how it was going to end. But what I did know is that the people in my program told me that if I do nothing and I write my boss's name down and put it in my God box, that I am doing something better than going in there and mouthing off to him. Um, and so that is what patience looked like for me. Patience sounds like such a lovely word, but again, it doesn't feel like that a lot of times. And so I guess a lot of times what I like to do in this podcast is just talk about what things feel like for me so that you know if you feel the same way that you're not alone. I like that's the whole point we're here is to know that we're not alone. Um, and that's why I talk about what things feel like. So I also heard in my meeting that learning to relax is patience. I feel I have a hard time relaxing. I have a hard time sitting back and doing nothing. Slowing down is patience. Um, Pausing is patience. Even like what I said yesterday was I have I'm an interrupter. That's what I've told people for years. I'm an interrupter. Like, we'll be in a conversation, there'll be several of us in a conversation, I'll start talking, and I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm an interrupter. And it took me a long time before I even knew that I could even look in the mirror and say you're an interrupter, Rachel. But once I started acknowledging that I'm an interrupter and then practicing my program, I started learning when I was in a conversation how to not interrupt. It's patience. That's what it is. Um, so that's been an interesting practice in patience. Um, it's kind of like trusting that everything is going to go well, even if I don't interject. I don't have to contribute anything in order for life to happen, for people to move on with their life. I know that sounds bizarre, but it's kind of like, and I heard this yesterday. I don't know whether it was yesterday or at church, they were so aligned with each other. I don't have to see what my kids are doing to know that things are going well or they're doing things the way that I want them to do it. So if my daughter, for example, gets a toll ticket, okay, and she decides that she wants to dispute the toll. I don't have to be a witness to how she handles that situation in order for it to go well. I need to let her do her thing and then let me know how it ends. That is another example of patience. Um, I think that as an alcoholic, I have been in training I was in training for 46 years to immediately gratify my every need. And patience, my 12-step program, has taught me that I don't have to get what I want, number one. I don't have to. Just because I want something doesn't mean I have to have it or that I should have it. And moreover, I don't have to have it right away. Becoming who I want to be takes time. I need to trust the process. Becoming a stable version of who I want to be takes time. It takes, much like carving those neural pathways that are destroyed in a stroke, in order for me to develop those skills again, I need to do them over and over and over again. And I need to trust the process, even when I can't see it, even when I don't understand it. So that's what I have for you today, all about patience. And thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.